For some reason, my camera keeps zooming in really close to my face. As I get further away, it just comes closer. What's that about?
No way. Just wants to be close to you.
There we go. We'll just go for close face. I don't know how I can turn it off.
It's better that it happens this way around, not the other way around. You don't want it
Yeah.
zooming in on my face. It's probably like going. I'm probably going like further out.
All right,
It's
we'll go with
probably.
that. All
I'll
right.
just for the viewers at home, I'll just stay about this far away
Yeah, yeah, sounds
from a
good.
distance.
And then my face can cover the whole screen.
Yeah. How's everything been?
Yeah, it's all right. Still struggling for wins. How are you getting on?
Yeah, same kind of situation, to be honest.
Yeah,
It's still like it's tricky. Like I think with the UTRs that I'm playing at the minute, like
yeah,
once you lose like one or two matches, you can get on a bit of like a like I need to win one.
yeah,
And I think that like we're probably both in like the similar situation, I think, at the minute. Like
yeah. I think so.
how have your last tournaments kind of been like?
Yeah, I mean, just for context for people watching, we have been chatting a bit the last few weeks, and then you gave me a bit of advice on how to kind of like get out of that rut a little bit.
Mm,
But yeah, it is a little bit similar still, especially my last match that I played. I did try and be like a little bit more like going for it a little bit more aggressive, I'd say, but then it just ended up in a few more errors. But I still feel like I was a little bit tight and like thinking about things too much. I think that's probably like one of the biggest causes for me is just like overthinking.
there's so many things going on, as in like especially with us two, we're in a similar situation with like the channel and like the
Yeah,
results and like that kind of thing. And I think that what is like the main thing is focusing on actually what you're doing. It sounds like a really cliche thing is like focus on the process. Everyone says like process, but it's
yeah,
like knowing the process inside out is what I found out like 2 years ago.
mhm,
And it was like I was getting up to these pressure moments and I was like, oh yeah, just go for it. And I was like, well, actually like just going for it doesn't really, what I mean? It doesn't really cut it, especially when you go up the levels. It's like you almost have to know at this moment, like second serve return, I'm going into his backhand, and like almost have to just think like that. I'm going to take it early, and like almost have the perspective that if I keep like just making the ball, like okay, this guy might have a bad day. Like he might be feeling less confident than me, and I might get like a win.
yeah,
But then that win almost like reinforces like the bad habit of just like nibbling the ball back in play.
yeah, for
And
sure.
it's actually like really difficult to like you might play people that you know that you can beat by just doing that.
Mhm.
But then all of a sudden, like you play somebody that you can't beat by doing that. And
Yeah,
then you've like not practiced the game that you want, you know what I mean? And then you have to do it in that moment and there's too much on it.
yeah.
Whereas if you take a few losses in the short term or accept you might lose in the short term, it's like it's a difficult one because I feel like we've got the channel and we want those wins and we want to show people that we can like play.
Mm.
But then in actual fact, like getting a few wins in the short term by doing like just keeping the ball in, like not moving forward, like not trying to execute anything that we've been working on in practice and just purely winning,
Yeah.
like there's no like long-term progression, if that makes sense.
No, I completely agree. And I think like what you're saying about the channel as well, it definitely plays a part of it. Like anyone feels when they're playing a bit of pressure, you start getting a bit more tight and you start overthinking things completely. I think that's probably why, I don't know, you didn't do college tennis, did you?
No.
Oh, neither did I, but I feel like that's something that probably people learn a little bit more out there because you get a little bit more pressure with it, playing in that team environment. And that's something you deal with. So by doing a YouTube channel, you kind of like force out upon yourself to have that added pressure, and
Mm,
try and perform under that pressure. But I think the stuff you're saying about having a plan on those big moments is the key, really. And I think that's something that I'm lacking a little bit on myself. And I saw something interesting. I think, do you follow Stokes Tennis on Instagram?
no, I don't think I do.
He's a coach there, but he put something out recently about how important it is to like be consistent. And he got a little bit of backlash in the comments, basically people being like, "Oh, you can't just be consistent because you're not going to progress through the levels." But what he responded was really interesting with how you got to be consistent, and being consistent doesn't mean pushing the ball really high over the net. It means like playing free, playing aggressive, just with big margins. And I think that ties in really similar to what you're saying, like having a plan. Your second serve goes here. And it's like it could be like 2 or 3 feet away from the lines, but you're still going for it and you're going through it. And I think that's something that I get caught up in my head a little bit too much on is either I'm being aggressive and like too loose, or I'm being passive, getting the ball in the court and just pushing it. And there's that middle balance that I think is really what progresses players. And like you watch Sinner and stuff, like he absolutely rips the ball, but he hardly misses. And I think that's because he knows where he's going, he knows what he's doing, and that's how he's able to try and get points and everything. Is that he's forcing those errors without going for winners, basically. I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, I think it's just they know the game and they know themselves. So
Yeah,
like it's like at this moment, let's say this guy's putting in a second serve, like I'm just hitting big cross, I'm going to get in a backhand battle and look for a forehand, like, and it's just like it's almost that simple that they know that okay, if I get the ball here, that the vast majority of the time this guy isn't gonna he's not going to change line on that ball, and I'm going to get the ball that I want, and I've got two or three to get in a bit of a groove in this like tight situation, and then I can look to
yeah,
like do damage. It's like they they almost know like in every moment like just what they're going to do. It's never like an uncertainty,
mhm,
and I think you can see when they're uncertain because they make like silly errors. Like I know that when they get a bit, it's rare, but like someone like Zverev, when he's loose, he's free. Is like his serve is huge, and then when he gets in like a tight moment, we've seen it in the past where he was just like kind of almost like guiding the serving, and I think that's where at a higher level you lose the idea of like the plan and the process, and it goes then into like winning. You know what I mean? It goes like too.
yeah.
It's not you're not in the present with it,
When
and I
when
think
when you're playing, I know this happens to me quite a bit, is that your mind just starts wandering to like external circumstances. Like when you're like about to walk up and play a point, do you start thinking about like what happens if I lose this match or stuff like that? And then do you try and block that out? Or is your mind fully in the present
it
moment?
def no, it definitely has. A few years ago, because I think it's quite funny on my channel. Like
Yeah.
I don't think I've explained it very well that like I have been like near top 1000 like
Yeah.
and I was playing like a good level, and I've
Yeah.
not really explained that to people, I don't think. So I think people think that I'm almost like starting out now, or like I've never played like
No, because
at that level before.
I remember we hit at Bisham once, like 5, 6 years ago. I don't know if you remember. You came down for like a day. I think maybe you hit with Alexis, and then
Yeah,
you
I
hit with
remember.
me for a
Yeah,
little bit after. And I remember hitting with you, thinking like, oh wow, I feel really lucky to play with someone like who's at this level. Like he's like in the top 1,000. Like he really knows what he's doing. And then when I watch some of your videos, like I'm thinking like, oh, the people in the comments, they have no idea. Like you were like getting that deep down in futures tournaments.
it is actually quite funny, and like a few years ago, like I remember like I had this big thing about money because like I was on a bit of a budget, and like I was like really thinking about money.
Yeah,
And now like my focus has kind of gone off money slightly, and it's like now onto like YouTube, and like not just like thinking, oh, like if I lose this match, people are gonna think I'm like rubbish on my channel. Like it's not like
yeah.
that. It's like I'm almost like in the middle of matches, and like I'll hit a good shot and I'm like, that's going on the highlights. You know what I mean? In like the back of my mind, I'm like, stop thinking about that. Do you know what I mean? It's like stop thinking about that. You're like losing. Like just
Yeah.
get on with
I-
playing
I've
the
had the same
match.
thing in my last match. Like I hit a hot dog and I thought, oh, if I made that, then like, oh, that would have been a good one. And I was just like,
Yeah.
you can't
it's
be
like
thinking like
it's
that.
like snap out of it.
Yeah.
Um like that's happened a few times to me, and like yeah, I mean it's really tough because in tennis you got to be like so in the moment, you got to be so focused on what you're doing, and like the YouTube channel is like I view it as like it's a blessing and a bit of a curse at the same time. Like, and I've got really a lot of respect for like someone like Felix or like Carousel. They've managed to get like their goals.
Yeah.
Like Felix doing the ATP point. Like that's tough enough without a channel and like 200,000 people watching you. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? That's insane to do that. And I've realized it recently. I'm like, there is because the reward. Like if we all of a sudden started doing well, and like the channel like because they go hand in hand a little bit, like the results pick up and the channel boosts as well, and it's like it's like a double win. But at the same time, when you're not winning and you still have to make that content and you put it out, it's like week in week out. If you lose like 2 or 3 matches in a row, it's like come on now, like people have got to see there's some sort of progression. But
Yeah. But I also think like as much as people enjoy watching videos, like they don't actually care that much. You know what I mean?
I think that's the thing. You got to
We build
realize
it
that.
up in our head a little bit too much. I think when we're playing, it's just like it's such a big deal. But it's like at the end of the day, or what we both have, what about like 4,000, 5,000 subscribers, and like our videos are getting under 10K views. So it's like
Mm.
it's not that many people, and the people watching don't really care. They just want to see us compete and like have a good time,
Yeah,
basically, right? But
yeah.
and
They just want to
if
see what the
like
journey's like.
and if we get to like loads of subscribers, like even then, it doesn't really matter that much. Like the point is just enjoying the journey, and that's what we've both said on our channels. But when we're actually
Mm.
in that situation in a match, it's kind of like takes us away from that original focus that we stated, and it kind of feels like I'm like lying to myself, if you know what I mean. But like
I
it's
know what you
just
mean. Yeah.
that match situation when you're playing the point and it's just like I really want to win this point, and then you start focusing on all the wrong things again. So I guess my question for you now is what's your techniques for trying to stay in the present moment during a match?
Interesting. Like, I think what I'm trying to think of it like at the minute is what is going to get me to like a better level.
Yeah.
And I'm like, if I can just focus on as much as I can, being aggressive and like basically being in control of the point,
Mhm.
like that's just my goal.
Right.
Like to do that every time, and if I like win or lose, like just sticking to that. And I've got obviously layers. You know what I said about the pattern stuff. Like I'm going to use these patterns and
Mhm.
stick to them and just make small adjustments. Because again, at the end of the day, like if you go into a match and go, okay, I'm going to serve and volley every point and I'm going to come to the net all the time,
Mhm.
and you did it once and then it worked like a little bit, and then you go into the next match and you're like, oh, that didn't work, so I'm just going to stand at the back and grind and like be all day, and then you do that for a match, and then if you constantly like chop and change, you're never going to like see. You need like a bit of consistency first with like your intention
Mhm.
to really like not see results. I mean, like see like patterns and how to reflect on it and then how to improve it. So it's like, like people, I think people get involved with results being like the marker for like improvement and things like that, when it's actually really not. It's like how you feel and like what you're actually doing in the moment and what you're able to like, be brave and step up and do. And so that's what my view of it is at the minute. It's like I'm almost taking myself away from results and I'm literally just focusing on my level, because I'm like, if I get that, then my results are going to come anyway.
That's
What
interesting.
about you?
Yeah, so I'd say focusing on the process is obviously so important. I'd say more specifically for me in a match situation, I'm like focusing on like sensations. So like the feeling of my racket or like breathing in and out. And that's what I'm using to like pull me into the present moment. I feel like sometimes I do that better than other times, but the times where I'm literally just like focused on looking at the ball, focused on the feeling of my grip, focused on my breathing, sort of like meditation sort of stuff, that's when I'm like playing my best. And that's when I'm at my I'd say mentally best during a match as well. But just going back to what you're saying about being a little bit more like aggressive or just sticking to that process goals that you're playing, I feel like that's something that I've not done that well. I feel like I've played the match where I've been too passive, and then the next match I've been like too aggressive, which is what you're saying is better because that's the way that you need to improve. But then I'd miss too much, and then the next match I'd go back to like just pushing the ball in the court a little bit and just grinding it out. I win some points and I lose, and then I keep flipping between the two. It's kind of just like I'm going to play aggressive because that's where I need to improve. Oh, I lost that match, so I need to be more consistent, and then I start pushing it. So it's kind of finding that balance, but then also just accepting that I might lose a few matches because I'm going for it. And I think that is sort of something that I haven't accepted in myself fully. So like just bringing it right back to the match that I just played. At the start of the match, I was being pretty aggressive, missing too much, ended up losing, going down the scoreline, and then I started just like pushing that ball in. And then I won a couple points, and then we had like really long rallies, just me getting the ball in play. And then like whilst I'm playing, I'm thinking this isn't the way that's going to make me progress. So it's kind of just like committing to that more aggressive playing style and then getting more consistent with that and just
Yeah,
accepting that I might get a few losses with it. But if I stick with it, then I'm going to get more consistent with it and more comfortable with it. And I think that's something that I've struggled to accept. I don't know if if you've overcome that or if you're in a sort of similar situation.
I have done it before. Yeah, I remember playing a match. So I started doing work with this coach, Josh Gledden from Sheffield, and
Yeah, yeah.
he took me on. We did 2 weeks of work, and then he said, "Let's go and play some tournaments." And so I went and played a pro league, and I played like one match because I didn't get in and got in as an alternate, and then like. So it's just like, okay, it's like nothing to lose. He was telling me all the time, like everything to gain, nothing to lose. And so I was just going out with the intention every time that I was playing points. Like literally, I've got nothing to lose. Like what have I got to lose? Like I was, I've been near top 1,000. I was like, what I mean? You can't make a career out of being top 1,000. So I was like, actually, even if I was like 500, not making loads of money. So it's like, I've really got nothing to lose. I was
Mm.
looking in my situation, like, I've got no pressure on me, like, I've got no bills to pay, that sort of thing. So I was in like a really good mindset of like nothing to lose. And I remember going out and playing this match, and like I just stuck to everything that he told me, almost like too much, like being so aggressive and like half volley winners and like coming in second serve volley and like felt great. I was like, wow, like just total freedom. And then I ended up going like 5-3, 6-3, 5-3 down, love 40, started like serve volleying, got back, won the match 10-8 in the breaker. And I was like, wow, if I could just do that like every match,
Yeah.
that'd be amazing. I'd feel great. And I started doing that, and I made a quarters of a 25K doing that. And then I got to the point where like, I was getting to like nearly top 1,000 and again. And I thought in my head, like, oh, I'm like nearly there. You know what I mean? Like, as if it was some sort of like, as if it was some sort of like marker. And I was like, and then after that, once I kind of got close to the goal again, like I kind of dropped and kind of almost protected what I had. And I wasn't going out again to like,
So
what I mean?
is that because you felt pressure?
Felt pressure to like there was more to it, but like there was yeah, I felt like oh, I'm like nearly 1,000 now. You know what I mean? Like if I play somebody like 1,300 and I lose,
Mm.
it's like a really bad loss. Do you know what I mean? Whereas actually, like if I was going to move up the levels, I had to just keep playing that way, whoever I played, and not view it as like a. Do you know what I mean? Like it's just looking back, it's like just process. Do you know what I mean? Like literally do the same thing day in, day out.
Yeah.
And you'll have good days, you'll have bad days, but like you'll also have like great days. Do
Mhm.
you know what I mean? Whereas if you just try and like almost just go out there and get the wins, you'll have some good days.
Mhm.
You'll have a lot of kind of like very average days where you're just like nibbling the ball back in and do you know what I mean? Like the guy might miss a bit and there's also like a satisfaction out of it as well. Like you're going to get way more satisfaction out of going after it. Like
Mhm.
when I think about my tennis, that was like the most enjoyable time. Like when I was playing like that, when I was going after it, taking it early, like it was like exciting. And then like recently, I've been like kind of realized now, but like chasing those results again. I was like getting into these matches. Like, I really don't enjoy playing like this. Do you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I'm like enjoying playing tennis, but I'm not enjoying what I'm doing. I'm like being so passive and not dictating. I'm not doing any damage to my opponent. And any points that I'm winning, I'm taking like 30 shots to win because just not being brave enough.
Mhm.
So yeah, I think it's having that kind of like foresight to think what's going to make me perform well in the long term.
Yeah.
And just an example, like I played George Lofhagen in a pro league
Mhm.
the year that he played. I think it was the year that he played Wimbledon.
Right.
And I remember playing him, and I was like, "Oh, like George is a good player." Like and I know he's been like 500 or whatever he was before he made another jump, and he was just like stepping in and crunching everything and like just going after everything. And I was like, and I played pretty solid, and I beat him, and I was like, "Oh, I've got a good win there. I played pretty solid," and like like I was just too solid for him, that kind of thing. Like kind of a few months later, when everything clicked for him, so he just kept doing that, and when everything clicked he like absolutely rinsed me 2-0.
Hmm. Interesting.
And I was like, okay, that was what it was all about. Like he was just going for it. And obviously he had a plan. He had like patterns and things like that. He had like structure, but he was just like missing.
So
And
I guess
then
what you're saying is that his process was there, but his execution wasn't there the first time. He kept sticking to the
exactly.
process, and then his execution got better.
Yeah, exactly. And he didn't worry about like losing to people like me. Like
Mm.
he did not worry, like, what I mean? He almost had that vision of where his game was going
Mhm.
and where he was going to be if this all clicked.
Yeah.
Which it does eventually if you like, whether it takes like 6 months or a year, like.
Mhm.
And this is the other thing about like blocking out those external pressures of the channel or like what other people might think or your opponent or whatever. Like the people in tennis that really know level and really know what they're talking about, they don't, if they see you like going after it and like they're like fair play. Do you know what I mean? They're not like, oh, this guy's missing so much. They'll be like, oh, he's doing the right thing. He's just not executing well enough. he's not moving up to it with his feet enough. He's just hitting it harder or whatever. Like they'll have something constructive to say. Whereas like people that don't know like that, like people that are getting pumped over you missing. You know what I mean? Like they're not winning the points. Let's say that you're going after it and just missing, and they're getting like really pumped. Like again, they're thinking like short term. Do you know
Yeah.
what I mean? They're not thinking about like kind of the long term progression of the game. And I like I've fallen into that trap. I've seen I've caught guys on bad days where I'm just like a bit too solid for them, and then it looks like I've got a good win, but then it's actually you know like the game style that I'm playing is not gonna get me to like 500. It might get me to like 1,000,
Yeah.
but it's not gonna get me to like 500. You
I think
know.
that's really interesting. I think that basically sums up my tennis journey so far as well. Is that like I've
Mm,
had some decent wins throughout my juniors and like early adult, like teenage and early 20s. But I got most of those wins through being too solid. And so like my opponent basically having a bad day. I put the ball in the court one more time than them and they missed more. And then
mm,
evidently over the last like few years, my game hasn't really progressed that much because I haven't been developing a game to win against better players. I've just been just standing on the court whilst they had a bad day and then got the scoreline online basically. And like it's something that I've known in the back of my mind and that I've spoken about on the channel over the last year and a half, trying to fix a little bit. But as I said before, it's just when you get into that match situation and then you do commit to one time of playing aggressive and doing the right process and you lose, then it's like disheartening and you think, okay, I just got to be a bit more solid. And then you fall back into the old ways. And then I think for me personally, I've just got to try and commit a little bit more to that process of it, except that I might lose some matches. And it's not going for winners for every shot, like we said, but it's just being loose. Um,
yeah.
so I think that that's really interesting.
The one thing that I would say is like almost have like set like I think the thing that really helped me was when I did like 2 weeks with Jay Clark. He had a wrist surgery and he was like basically saying if you can just hit with me, I'll like coach you. And
Yeah.
obviously got good mates with him anyway, and he just really helped me out. And like he was just talking about how the patterns are so important. Like he
Mm.
was just like stick to patterns, and he was like starting the match with the right intention. Because I think people start the match sometimes like with, oh, just I need to make loads of balls, when actually that makes people feel really comfortable. What might happen is early on, you might like, the guy, you might not win a point on the guy's serve, or you might like miss every return, but like by going after it. But at some point, that's going to like click. Do you know what I mean? And you're better off going a bit too much and bringing it down than starting like down here and then trying to build up,
Yeah,
because
true.
it's really difficult to like if you start like just blocking things back,
Mm.
it's very hard to then start hitting them. Whereas if what I've seen with players that have got like big game styles from like almost from like the first point, I remember playing Billy Harris, and from like he's a big guy, big game. From the first point, it was like I put one into his hitting zone, boom. He might miss it by like that, but then like in 2 games time, it's like it's that far inside the court,
Yeah. And then
and then
also,
I've got no chance.
if he starts missing too much like that, he'll just change his tactical intention of like going across court a bit more, but keep the same commitment on the shot. Whereas I feel like most
Yeah,
people would just slow it down and like push it a little bit when they start missing. But I feel like the better way to do it is just don't go line as much, go across court more, but keep that same commitment on it so that when you do start making a bit more, then you can change direction again and then you don't lose that full aggressiveness within the actual stroke.
yeah. It's like Jay was telling me over and over again. He was saying shot quality before accuracy.
Yeah.
He was just like get your shot quality right, and like as in like depth or the actual good contact of the ball, and then worry about like getting your opponent off the court, because you see it loads. Like it happens in like big moments, like people panic, they think they have to go too close to the lines. Just hit it big deep down the middle.
Yeah.
Like if somebody wants to like take a chance on making an angle, the worst case scenario, somebody's going to give you a ball back deep,
Yeah.
and if they flash one off that, then you just say too good and you do it again, and then they'll miss. Do you know what I mean? That eventually, like they'll kind of, they'll give you a short one, or they'll break down, or they'll give you the ball back deep, and then you just go again. And it's like that. It's like knowing. It's like one, knowing the situation, and also like kind of almost just backing yourself that that is going to be good enough. I
Yeah.
mean, I was watching the Australian Open the other day. They're hitting like that far away from the lines.
Mhm.
Like that is like risky. You know what I mean? Like they're hitting like big margin in the court, but it's big, it's heavy. Like and they take it early, so it's like not. They're not chancing. You know what I mean? Um, I think there are odd points where they flash one on the highlights, but if you watch like a full match, like they're not consistently going near lines,
No.
really.
No, no, no. And then I think
Um,
that's where people can get confused and fall into that passive state because that's what they see. But when you're actually there live, you see the footwork intensity, the body weight transfer into the court, and the actual ripping of the ball on the contact. So I think that's what everyone needs to try and develop. I guess it's the classic thing of like develop your tempo, develop your accuracy, and as you said, your shot quality as well. So
yeah, yeah. One of the best like training blocks I ever had was with Josh when we were back in Sheffield, and we did a lot on just like tempo training, where like two players on the baseline, we just do a minute, how many balls we can get in that space, and we're not hitting the ball hard.
yeah,
You know what I mean? It's not like it's very like you said, it very intense with the footwork, very like intense with the weight transfer through the court. It's not, you know what I mean? Like the ball pace isn't the issue. Like almost like the first few matches that I played with Josh, he was like, I said, "Oh, what do you think?" And he was like, "Your ball pace wasn't right." And I was like, "Oh, like not big enough." And he was like, "No, no, too big."
right.
You know what I mean? So I was like, actually, like there's a
And is he saying that it's too big because you're not moving up the court and taking it early and you're trying to hit big from behind the baseline? Or is he saying slow the shot down?
it was more like it's like unnecessary. Do you know what I mean? Like it was if I was like really like you know what I mean, like taking one early, it's like almost doesn't have to be that big. It just has to be like a good contact and early and make sure you cover the right space at the net because I think it's more like when you get into those tight situations, it's like you got to remember your opponent's tight as well. And if you're that far up in the court and you're going for like this big like put away, it almost doesn't have to be like that. You know what I mean? Like the more ball pace is like it's it's almost like more risky.
Mhm.
Yes, from the back of the court, hit bigger. But like when you're at the front, like it's almost just like
Right.
play the percentage into the backhand and look for the volley. Like if they want to pass you at like 30 all, 5 all off like a stretch backhand pass, like you know what I mean? It's you just say too good if they make it. Obviously your shot's got to have quality. I'm not saying like you just push it in the court. I'm just saying like you don't have to absolutely leather it. You just
Yeah,
have to
yeah,
attack with the feet and get up and push it.
yeah. Just play a bit
Um,
more intelligent when you have that put away ball, I guess.
yeah, that was pretty much what he was saying to me. Like, don't feel like you have to leather every ball when you're being aggressive. It's like
Yeah.
almost understand that your feet are doing most of the job.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I mean, like I remember I was watching your match the other day, the one you put on in Sheffield,
Yeah.
my hometown.
Yeah.
There was quite a few points where I was like seeing you like chip, and
Mhm.
I've been in that situation a lot. Like, and it's almost like in that situation you have to. It's very difficult, but almost just think like I'm just going to hit them
Mhm.
like and like that guy played really aggressive. Like
Yeah.
he's a big hitter, wasn't he? I've not seen him before, but he's a big server,
Yeah.
like big hitter.
Yeah.
And I think it's almost making him feel like that no matter how hard he hits the serve, you know what I mean, or no matter like
Yeah.
it's going to come back with something. Whereas if he knows that he's going to hit a bomb and he's going to come back like this,
Yeah.
and you're far back, it's probably almost like even if you make every single return, he's going to get in some sort of rhythm.
Mm.
And I was thinking like that last week. I went out with the intention if I get a second serve, I'm just going to make it. Do you know what
Yeah.
I mean? And actually, but we think by making more balls, we think we're doing better.
Yeah.
But actually, I came out this week and I like flashed a few more.
Yeah.
Just went after a few more, and I was like, actually, like the three that I made in this, or four that I made in the set, did way more damage. I won more points than making like 20% more. And I'm saying you want to make them, obviously. You want to hit, you're not just like going out and just nailing them, but like you're you're going out with the intention to be aggressive. And that even if you're missing them, your opponent's going to be stepping up, like hitting that second serve, thinking this could come back like very, it makes them like unsure. And with that intention to go out and be aggressive, I saw a lot more double faults in my opponents,
Right. That's really
which was
interesting.
the other side of it. Yeah, you got to like. I think it's like the balance of like you have to almost weigh up like how you feel with how you're making your opponent feel. That's like the other side of it is you might not be comfortable like stepping in and taking on the return,
Yeah.
but think about how uncomfortable your opponent is dealing with that return. Like, yeah, I guarantee that they're not going to want that. Like, even if you're missing, like, they'd probably rather you make every return and push it in
Yeah.
than give them like two free errors or three free errors in a row or something.
Mhm. Yeah.
But
No, that's really interesting. Um, so I guess I just got a notification that we're running out of time. So let's summarize
sorry.
quickly. No, it's all good. So really cool stuff there. What would you say the three or four main points are? So obviously we got focusing on the process, but obviously at a deeper level, I guess one thing is sticking to plan, sticking to a pattern.
Mm.
What are some other stuff that we spoke about there that we could summarize?
Knowing yourself and knowing the game,
Yeah,
like being very aware of like how you feel plus what's effective,
yeah,
that kind of thing. So, like, just if you're nervous and you're thinking to push it in, realizing that one, in the long term, that's not going to be effective, and two, like how that's going to make your opponent feel, slash, you know what I mean? Like, just that, using that knowledge to almost make yourself play more aggressive and more up the court. Um,
I guess
even like
you,
playing,
no, go on.
sorry, yeah, almost like being comfortable with being uncomfortable, that kind of, that ties in with it as well.
Yeah, sure. And I guess having that mindset will help you think better about what tactically to do as well. Like if you're thinking
Mm,
about what makes your opponent uncomfortable rather than what makes you feel great, then you're probably
yeah,
doing the right thing.
yeah,
Yeah, that's really interesting. And then I think one of the biggest points for me from this was sticking to it, even if it doesn't work one time. So you got the right process, you've evaluated what to do, and then let's say you lose a match, but it's doing the right thing. Keep sticking with it because it will click eventually. Like what you said, when you lost, like when you won, and then you lost really heavy the next time you played the guy. Like you
yeah,
see that from his point of view.
yeah. I'd say don't be affected by short-term losses.
Mhm.
Like, don't worry about like confidence. Like your confidence will come through, like, saying this for myself as well. Like,
Yeah, for sure.
don't worry about confidence. Like, confidence will come, like the belief that you're playing the right way and the belief that you can achieve a high level of tennis will be enough.
Yeah,
You don't have to have that confidence of beating this guy, that guy. Like, it's like almost put it in a situation of like you're so how far is he going to get playing like that?
yeah,
You know what I mean? Like, if he's just like nibbling the ball around and he's like more solid than you and you miss, but you're playing the right way,
yeah.
it's like, actually, where's the progression there? It's all about progression. It's all about improvement, process.
Yeah. No, that's really cool. All right. I think that's the
That's
summary.
awesome.
Yeah, that's awesome.